Please. That's me switched.
Okay, good morning, everybody. And sorry for the apologies for the delay in getting started this morning. I'm hoping everyone can hear me. Welcome to the Development Standards Committee today, Tuesday, the 13th of August. This meeting is being recorded and being broadcast live on the Angus Council YouTube channel. Can I remind all those joining us remotely to turn their microphones to mute unless they wish to speak, and they should do so by raising their hand remotely. Can I add, if you have any problems this morning hearing or anything, can you put your hand up on screen as well so we can recognise that? Can I also remind members that under Standing Order 13, all remote members attending hybrid meetings where quasi-judicial and regulatory matters are being considered will not be permitted to participate by audio only and must have their video and camera functions switched on. Unfortunately, if your camera is switched off for any reason during consideration of any matter during this meeting, you'll be assumed to have left the meeting and will not be able to take part in further debate and voting on any said matter. Okay, we'll go ahead and we're going to try switching between microphones here. Sarah, do you have any apologies?
Yes, convener, we have apologies from councillors Brays and
Thanks very much. Declarations of interest or statements of transparency. Councillor Gall, go ahead.
Thank you, convener. Agenda item number 11 is in my name, so I will leave the meeting when that is called for discussion and then rejoin once it's been decided.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Gall. Councillor Melville.
Yes, thanks, convener. Statement of transparency for item 10. In another work role, I visited the Signal Tower Museum and heard from the staff there about the kind of things that they were looking at, which included provision of facilities like this. However, I don't consider there to be any interest, and therefore I will stay in the meeting and take part.
Thanks, Councillor Melville. And we also have Councillor Nicholl.
Thank you, convener. Item number 11. I'm aware of the person who's applying and have no connection with them other than a work colleague, and I will stay in the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholl. Okay, moving on. You can put your hand down, that's it. Agenda item 3 is our building warrants. Committees asked to note that during the period 1st of June to 2nd of August 2024, a total of 97 demolition warrants and 39 amendment to warrants have been approved with an estimated cost of £11,337,085. A copy of the approved warrants has been sent to every member. Is that noted? Thank you very much. Agenda item 4 and delegated decision. Again, committees asked to note during the same period, 1st of June to 2nd of August 2024, a total of 105 applications have been approved, 5 refused under the Planning Acts through the scheme of delegation to officers. Again, a list being sent to every member. And again, is that noted? Again, thank you. The minute of the previous meeting, agenda 5, we submit for approval as a correct record the minute of meeting of our committee on the 11th of June 2024. Are there any comments or adjustments considered necessary by members of the committee? If not, are the minutes approved? Thank you very much. Right, agenda item 6 refers to this committee's asked to note that Councillor Brays has resigned from the Development Management Review Committee. The committee's asked or requested to appoint a member of the Development Committee, requested to appoint a member from the Development Standards Committee to the DMRC. We have the current remaining membership, but do I have any nominees? Councillor Duff. Do you have a seconder? Are there any other applicants? Okay, we'll take that as read. Welcome. Oh, I'm sorry. Apologies. Councillor Dorn.
I just wanted we didn't hear who that was online, or at least I didn't hear who it was online because the microphone wasn't working. If you wanted to say who it was, Councillor Cheek, that would be fine, but we just couldn't hear it, that's all.
Yep, sorry, I say, please keep reminding us if you miss out on anything on, just for clarity, Councillor Duff recommended Councillor Beattie and was seconded by Councillor Melville, and there are no other applicants. Thanks very much. So Councillor Beattie, welcome to DMRC. Thank you very much. Right, we have a fairly busy agenda this morning. So agenda item 7 relates to report 221/24, and the report deals with planning application number 24/00038/FULM submitted on behalf of RES Limited for the installation of an energy storage facility, including battery enclosures, power conversion units, transformers, substations, grid connection infrastructure, vehicular access and associated works on land 300 metres northeast of Bridge of Dun Station by Montrose. And Mr. Hunter is ready to present the slides. Go ahead, Alan.
Thank you, convener, and good morning, members. I hope everyone can hear me and that everyone can see the slides. No negatives. The first planning application today relates to an application for the formation of a battery energy storage system of 49.9 megawatts and associated development on land in the vicinity of Bridge of Dun to the south of the A935 road, again at Dun, Montrose. Application seeks permission to have the installation in place for a period of 50 years, and it seeks a period of 6 years to allow implementation of the planning permission in order to coincide with a previously approved grid connection offer. And unfortunately, there we go. Committee has dealt with a number of these applications over the past few months and is, I would suggest, very familiar with the policy basis for renewable energy development. In summary terms, the policy provided both by NPF4 and the local development plan is very supportive towards renewable energy development proposals. And the relevant policies, the relevant material considerations are addressed in the report that's before you today. So the purpose of the presentation is really to run through some slides that show the nature of the development that's proposed and give some impression of the locale, while touching on some of the key issues that have been raised in letters of representation. Just want to pick out a few features on this first location plan slide. We have the A935 Brechin to Montrose Road running in a east-west direction across the screen. Application site located just in the area identified by the cursor, so sitting south of Dun Mill and south of the A935 public road. We have an electricity substation located a short distance to the southwest of the application site, and members will recall that at the meeting in March, planning permission was granted for the formation of a battery energy storage facility just to the west of that substation. Pick out the unclassified road that runs from the A935 through Bulwilo down to Dun and loops round again, rejoining the A935 in the vicinity of Mains of Dun. Bridge of Dun railway station and the River South-Est, Bridge of Dun located to the south, and Montrose Basin and the various environmental designations associated with the basin located at the south-east or bottom right corner of the slide that we see here. Perhaps also pick out House of Dun, located short distance to the north-east of the application site, just again in the area identified by the cursor. If we move on, we have an aerial image that shows the extent of the application site. Again, A935 public road running along the top of the application site, and the unclassified Mains of Dun to Balwilo road running to the south. And it's from the south that access would be taken, all vehicular access taken from this point to the west of the 3 cottages at Mains of Dun. So access taken from the point that we see here. Again, just in terms of this aerial image, you can see significant woodland located in the top right-hand corner of the slide. This provides a significant screen between the proposed development site and House of Dun. So House of Dun, important listed building, but very effective screening between that property, between the policies of the listed building and the application site itself. I've mentioned the Mains of Dun cottages just in the area identified with the cursor, and we have Dun Mill located just again in the area identified by the cursor, and I believe we have a speaker from that property who will address committee later on. I want to pick up on a few issues that have been raised in letters of representation just at this point. There is concern about loss of agricultural land. Again, members will be very aware that Scottish Government policy is clear that renewable energy development proposals are an acceptable form of development on prime quality agricultural land. That's government policy, that's our development plan policy. It's not a reason to justify refusal of this application. There are also concerns regarding impacts on wildlife, biodiversity, protected species and designated sites. Again, the applicant has provided an ecological appraisal. The application site at present is predominantly arable farmland. It has reasonably low biodiversity value. There is additional planting, landscaping proposed in association with the development, and that's likely to result in some biodiversity net gain. No objection to the application from SEPA in relation to risks to water courses, and no concern regarding potential impact on the South Esk or Montrose Basin. To confirm, Nature Scot is not a statutory consultee in relation to this application. The application has been discussed informally with colleagues at Nature Scot, and they are satisfied that the condition that's proposed, which requires a construction environment management plan, should address any issues in relation to potential contaminants that could enter the water environment. And that is a proposed condition before you. Again, reflecting concerns previously raised by this committee, we have a condition that requires further detail in relation to fire safety, again, just to ensure that any issues in relation to potential contaminants entering the water environment are adequately addressed. In a little bit more detail, we have the application proposal itself. As I've indicated, access being taken from the southeast, from the unclassified road. So a short distance where vehicles would travel from the A935 down to an existing access point. Our roads colleagues have confirmed they've got no concerns regarding the nature of the vehicle movements that would be associated with that. Indications are that a maximum average of 9 HGV vehicle movements a day would be associated with the initial phases of construction. So generally less than 1 hour over that initial construction period, reducing to very infrequent movements when the plant is operational. We have a compound area located just in the centre of the screen that you can see here. So that's roughly 250 metres from the Dun Mill property and over 300 metres from the properties at Mains of Dun, and round about 400 metres north of the closest residential property in the vicinity of Bridge of Dun. This is a section drawing. Top image is taken on a north-south axis. So the left-hand side of the screen that we see here shows road level, and you can see that drops into the field. So some change in ground levels to reduce ground levels closest to the public road, not being reduced by much, maybe a metre or so, but it indicates roughly 2 or 3 metres below the level of the road at the northern point of the application site. Again, bottom image shown running east-west through the application site, and you can see bunds formed to the east and to the west of the proposed compound area. Bunds maybe roughly a couple of metres in height, and the proposal is for those to be planted with the appropriate planting and to mature as the development exists. In a little bit more detail, you can see the compound area itself. We have the 2 bunds I've just referenced. We have 32 battery storage containers, 2 substation buildings, and other apparatus that members are familiar with: inverters, transformers, various pieces of apparatus associated with the operation of the units. And we have a suds attenuation pond located to the south of the site. 2 access points taken from the main access track. Some concerns raised in objections regarding safety and reference to Fire Chief's guidance. Fire Chief guidance suggests 2 access points to the compound in order to deal with any emergency situation that arises. Again, that guidance refers to a minimum 25-metre separation distance between battery container units and any neighbouring habitable property. In this case, the closest habitable property is around about 250 metres from the application site. Just in terms of the apparatus itself, won't linger too long on this. We have the proposed storage container unit, a fairly standard unit that, again, members are now familiar with. Substation type building, that would be the highest building within the site at just under 5 metres in height. An acoustic fence that would surround the development, roughly 3 metres in height. We have some CCTV cameras and lighting poles, roughly 4 metres in height. And you can see some of the other apparatus varying in height, roughly 2.5 metres, located within the development site itself. Moving on, again, members are going to be familiar with this. It's a zone of theoretical visibility diagram. This version takes account of existing landscape features, so it accounts for buildings and it accounts for trees and woodland. So it indicates that visibility to the north of the site is going to be fairly restricted. You can see no visibility in relation to House of Dun. Visibility to the east, fairly limited, and to the east, to the right-hand side, fairly limited, and similarly fairly limited to the west at the left-hand side of the drawing. More visibility in the area to the south, as you can see. Hatched line that we have in this area is round about 3 kilometres, and theoretical visibility from the public road that runs along the southern extent of the basin. We have some photomontages. The first is a photomontage from the west of the site, from the A935. You can see some of the proposed hedge planting that's proposed in association with the application along the roadside just in this area. And through time, that would grow, indicated it would be managed at a height of about 3 metres. You can see the stand of trees in the middle of the screen, and the development sits behind that. So from this view, you can perhaps see some green just behind the trees, and that's maybe an indication of the fence line for the compound itself, but fairly limited visibility at this point. Again, similar image from the east. We have an access into the Mill of Dun property just at this point, and you can see the compound located to the south of the public road in this area. You can see the bund, and you can see the substation buildings, which would be enclosed by the fence. Containers at this point, not hugely visible. They would be lower than the fencing surrounding the property. So containers reasonably screened at a distance of around about 250 metres from the east. And again, you can see some of the landscaping, some of the hedge planting and trees proposed in association with the development between the access track, the compound, and the public road. Now, no question, as you are closer to the development over a short distance between this point and the previous image, you will get views of this development. It will be visible, but those are localized impacts. They are mitigated by the landscaping and planting that's proposed, and members will be very aware NPF, National Planning Guidance, National Planning Policy indicates that impacts that are localised and appropriately mitigated are likely to be acceptable. So we move round to the south. This is an image taken from the proximity of Bridge of Dun and the property at Three Chimneys, located just to the north of the station. And you have a red line here that identifies the extent of the compound. So you can see at this distance, around about 400 metres, the compound is going to be seen against a backdrop of rising land. Again, along the road that loops around the southern extent of the site, typically, particularly on the eastern section, there are hedgerows and planting, which again will provide some screening from the public road. As I've indicated, that's a distance of about 400 metres. If we look at a similar development that's been constructed on the outskirts of Arbroath, members will be aware of the Persimmons development located at Crudy Acres. There is a battery storage compound located just to the north of that, so around about 50 metres distance from the houses that have been constructed there. This image, taken from street view, probably at a distance of around about 200 metres. So this gives an indication as to the visual impact that might be associated with this type of development at a distance of around about 200 metres. Now again, these are photomontages, they are street view images. They perhaps don't give an absolutely accurate reflection of how things will look, but they give members an impression of how things will look. So that's a distance of 200 metres. Again, just an image from the south. This is taken from the listed Bridge of Dun. Application site itself is going to sit behind the buildings, the station buildings that you see in this area. So again, you can perhaps get an impression at a distance of around about 700 metres, the development is not going to be a hugely significant presence in the landscape. Impacts are localised. We move back to the layout. I've mentioned the properties at Mains of Dun. I've touched on the access issues. There are concerns from the residents in these properties about amenity impacts associated with vehicular movement. During the construction period, which is indicated to the last 12 months, there will be vehicle movements on this access track. There are concerns about damage to property, road safety at the junction, and just general amenity impacts associated with movement. Damage to property is not a material planning consideration. That's a civil matter between the developer and the properties affected. That said, in this area, vehicles are likely to be moving at relatively low speed. The HGV movements are going to be fairly limited over the initial construction phase of the development. And we have many roads in Angus, rural roads, the A935 itself, where we have significantly higher vehicle movements in not dissimilar proximity to houses. Our roads colleagues are satisfied that access arrangements at the junction can be appropriately managed. You'll see one of the proposed conditions requires a traffic management plan during the construction and subsequent decommissioning phases of the development, but no significant issues associated with that. Similarly, our environmental health colleagues have indicated they have no concern regarding impacts on amenity of these properties, subject to the proposed conditions that deal with noise and vibration impacts. And you'll have seen from the image of the development in Arbroath, there are residential properties coexist with this type of development at much closer distances. We have an image that shows the properties at Mains of Dun, three properties in this area, and this is the access that would be used for construction traffic. Existing track that served these properties, and shortly after this access point, a new track constructed, a dedicated track to serve the development itself. We have an impression of the compound from the proximity of these properties. So this is at a distance of around about 300 metres. It's visible. This is before the planting matures, but you can see it is mitigated by the bunding. We have the green acoustic fencing that would surround the development from the south. That's going to be seen against the rising backdrop of the landform. The bund and the associated planting is going to reduce the visual prominence of the development from the neighbouring houses. Again, just an impression of distance at 200 metres in Arbroath, so 300 metres roughly in relation to the properties that Mains have done, where we do have a number of objections. Again, just an image of the Arbroath development. You can see the relationship between the houses and the acoustic fencing. In that case, fencing maybe around about 4.5 metres in height and a 50-metre separation distance. Minimum distance in the case we're looking at is 250 metres from the compound to the property at Mill of Dun, and round about 350 metres to the closest properties at Mains of Dun. So again, just going back to that image, photomontage that shows the planting on the bund as it matures. You can see the new hedge planting, the augmentation of existing hedge planting along the roadside boundary, which will provide some mitigation as it matures over the life of the development. But I would suggest development sits reasonably comfortably within the landscape. It will have impacts, but those impacts are going to be localised. It's a proposal that complies with development plan policy. It's a proposal very similar to others that have been approved by committee. No significant issues in terms of cumulative impact, around about 400, 500 metres between the approved development adjacent to the substation and the development here. It does not significantly change the overall landscape character of the development. Impacts are localised and appropriately mitigated by the proposed conditions that are before you, and the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Convener.
Thanks, Mr. Hunter. And again, did everybody hear me all right online? No? Oh. Okay, I'll start again. Can you hear me now, Heather? Because using it as an example. Right, okay. I was just thanking Mr. Hunter there. I'm just asking whether any elected members online or in the chamber have any questions for Mr. Hunter. And I can start with Councillor Clark.
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
ask Mr. Hunter, if you go back a little bit, you mentioned just a few minutes ago the track by the side of the houses. And then I think you mentioned maybe another track. If I misheard, you can let me know. But if you could just talk to that bit again for me, please.
Absolutely. So there is an existing track to the west of Mains of Dun cottages, which provides access to those cottages, to the garage areas and rear of those properties. The access, that track access and the interface with, or the junction with the unclassified road will be used by this development. So it's using an existing access point. Shortly after that access point, a new track will be constructed adjacent to the existing track, which will serve as the dedicated site access for the compound itself. So we will have at one point 2 tracks running effectively side by side.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. I think that is what I thought, but I just needed it clarified. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Clark. Are there any other questions for Mr. Hunter in the presentation? Don't appear so. So we're missing this one.
Yeah.
Sorry. Apologies, Councillor Dornell. Off you go.
Thank you. My question more relates to the decommissioning of these sites and presumably the responsibility of that. I know that there's a plan that needs to be put into place for decommissioning and funds associated with that. And presumably that sits with the developer. My only question is, and I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, but it relates to the fact that if something happens to the developer, then what happens then?
Thank you, Councillor Dorn. The condition requires a provision, or a financial provision, effectively a bond, and that bond will be in place for the duration of the development. So if the developer changes, or if something happens to the developer, that bond, it's effectively an insurance bond, should remain in place for the life of the development.
Thank you, Councillor Dorn and Mr. Hunter. Again, on that, there's no more questions I can see online or in the chamber. So we will move. We've got a couple of speakers. Just for speakers' purpose, understanding order 12, Angus Council applicants, supporters and objectors are given the opportunity to address any points which they wish the committee to take into account in coming to its decision. Speakers will be given 5 minutes only. And I'll remind speakers that members of this committee have already been provided with the opportunity to read all submissions and may already be familiar with most of the points raised by speakers. Regardless, first of all, we'll start with Mr. Russell. Mr. Russell, if you'd like to come and perhaps sit alongside Councillor Fotheringham here, and perhaps Councillor Fotheringham, you could actually put on your microphone to let him speak to that. I'll keep my mic on until you're ready at the moment.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
off you go.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for this opportunity to give my personal opinions on the project. With the demands on our ageing electricity network and the rise of microgeneration, these battery systems are needed to balance the irregular supply and demand for electricity. I realise that placement of these battery compounds will always be controversial, and as I appear to be the closest resident to the project, I have been closely watching the progress and design, which I must say has had a lot of thought put into it from the developer. With the proposed natural screening and the different level from road to compound, I believe once matured, I'll actually forget that it is actually there. The loss of arable land is a small compared to another planned housing scheme development that could be pushed through. Finally, as regards the build, and in my opinion, we're living out there for the last 30 years. I personally don't believe there will be as much disruption as people seem to think, including harvest time, things like that. We have 24/7 for nearly a whole month running past there. And I do realise that it may impact some people's houses and things like that. That's really all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. If you don't mind remaining just for a second, in case any of our members have any questions for you. Do any elected members have any questions for Mr. Russell for the Speaker? No? Okay, Mr. Russell, thank you. You're free to go. Can I ask, we also have Peter Deeney, who is the speaking on behalf of the applicant of the RES group. Mr. Deeney, would like to take the place next to Councillor Fotheringham, and Craig will just do the same again, if you don't mind. Again, you have 5 minutes, Mr. Deeney, and I'll just give you advice when you reach 4. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, convener, and thank you to the members for giving me the chance to address the committee today. My name is Peter Deeney. I work for RES as a development project manager, managing the Dunmill Energy Storage Project. Firstly, I'd like to talk a little on why developments of this nature are necessary. The way in which we generate electricity is changing. Vast amounts of renewable energy generation are being connected to the national grid in order to address various needs such as security of energy supply, reduction in reliance of fossil fuels, and meeting Scotland's net zero targets. The way in which we use electricity is also rapidly changing. We now use more electronic devices than ever before. Electric vehicles are seen more in road transport, and the electrical heating of homes is becoming more and more commonplace. Our national grid is therefore in a transitionary period, and developments like this one help to manage increasingly complex supply and demand needs. At any given moment, the amount of energy we generate must be finely balanced with the amount that we consume. If this balance isn't achieved, it can lead to outages and grid failures. By storing electricity when generation exceeds demand and releasing electricity back into the grid when demand exceeds generation, energy storage systems like this one are essential in achieving stable and secure supply of electricity moving into the future. RES has been working in the battery energy storage market for a decade and designed safe systems using proven technology. RES has developed over 700 megawatts of energy storage projects across the UK and Ireland, and currently manage over 600 megawatts of operational storage projects with 24/7 365 monitoring provided from our control centre in Glasgow. The development proposal has been carefully sited and designed, utilising land adjacent to the existing Bridge of Dun substation, while being positioned away from residential properties and outside of any national or local landscape designations. A suitable substation with available capacity to connect is crucial when locating these systems. We are in frequent conversations with the network operator, and a connection agreement is already in place. Some of the other key constraints we considered when selecting the location and designing the project are distance from residents, avoidance of flood risk, visual impact, topography, overground and underground services, as well as many more. A landscape master plan accompanies the application and sets out substantial measures to reduce potential visual impact, as Mr. Hunter has already kind of touched on. There's bunds, any existing hedgerows, trees will be maintained and enhanced, as well as species-rich grass mixes planted on screening bunds. The proposal also has the added benefit of improving biodiversity. Following the development, a biodiversity net gain of nearly 13% in habitat units, 27% in watercourse units, and over 150% in hedgerow units will be achieved. The project was screened as non-EIA development, and the ecological assessment concluded that there's no significant impacts on the Montrose Basement SPA, Ramsar, South River Esk, as well as no adverse effects on bats, otters, water voles, or birds. Due consideration has been made in the application in respect to road traffic and pedestrian access to ensure that construction traffic can access the site safe and in a suitable manner. Peak HGV movements will be roughly 9 vehicles per day and will occur in the first quarter of a limited 12-month construction period. After month 4, The HGV movements will be significantly reduced, and during operation and maintenance, traffic movements will be generally limited to 12 per year or 1 per month, and these are very unlikely to be HGVs. An acoustic impact assessment accompanies the application, the methodology of which has been agreed with a local environmental health officer. The assessment concludes that the operational impact is not significant in the context of relevant assessment criteria and technical advice from the Scottish Government. Some of the more direct and meaningful benefits that can be delivered from the project are jobs and employment to local businesses and contractors during the construction phase, in addition to use of local services and amenities, all which generate a significant amount of inward investment in the area. RES is committed to ensuring that where possible and reasonably practical, local contractors are used at all aspects of the project's development.
One more minute, Mr. Deeney, okay.
In conclusion, the project has been subject to comprehensive environmental and technical assessments and has received no objection from technical statutory consultees. The planning balance is strongly in favour of the application. Therefore, we respectfully ask the committee to support the application in line with the officer's recommendation. Thank you for letting me speak, and I'm here for any questions.
Right, thank you, Mr. Deeney, for that. Councillor Durno, you have your hand up. Is there something before we go to questions you want to raise?
It's just a small question. Thanks, convener. Is that okay?
Sorry, is it in relation to the last speaker?
Yes, it is.
Right, just give me 1 second then. Right, go ahead, Councillor Durno, with your question.
Right, thanks, Mr. Dean. We have a similar site in our road not far from where I live. And the question I want to ask to yourself is, I know you're saying that the control centre will be in Glasgow. We have the problem here in our road that security alarms keep going off, and they keep going off all weekend, and the residents can't get a hold of people to come and switch them off. Could you guarantee, if your application goes through today, that you can give local residents a contact number for somebody to come to the site if needed, if an alarm goes off?
I couldn't guarantee that we could give local residents access to the site. We do have monitored 24/7 from the control centre in Glasgow. And we do also have a team. It's not these things are designed to be unmanned as such, but there are men behind it as well, and women. The operations and maintenance team are on standby at all times, and in the event that any alarms were to go off, someone would attend site immediately.
Yeah, as long as there's a communication number before that residents could contact somebody, because obviously in our road people have been trying to phone SSE or whoever it is, you know, in charge of that one, and nobody comes, and you know they never get hold of anybody. So if you could just make sure that there is some number that somebody can actually answer if a resident has a problem with an alarm or a noise going off all weekend, a bit like a car battery. It's really, you know, car noise. It's really annoying for residents. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. The control centre number, it will be displayed on the site as well, as we do with all of our sites. So there will be a contact. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Clark has a question.
Sorry, got it now. I suppose, Mr. Deeney, I'm just in the same area as my colleague there, but slightly expanded. You know, what you're speaking about is really good. The mitigation that you're going to have for people's worries. And I suppose I'm just asking really what will continue, because you are going to have some vehicles there. So can I ask, and for your assurance, please, that you will be a good neighbour, because you are going to be a neighbour. However, a transitionary period, but people will have their lives turned upside down to a certain degree. It's inevitable. So can I just have an assurance, please, that you're going to really take that into consideration?
Absolutely. We have no intention of being a poor neighbour. Anything that we can do to help mitigate any concerns raised, we intend to do so, and I believe we have during the public consultation. You know, what was spoken on was the likes of the access track running parallel. That's one that would have arose from concerns from the public. I believe anything that has been raised, we've addressed so far, and we have no intention of moving forward as a poor neighbour. We'll do everything we can to integrate the project with the community.
Thanks very much, Mr. Bree.
Looking to see any other questions. There are none online, none in the chamber. But just I think Councillor Durno raised a valid point, and it's something that crops up in many applications, not for this, but also in our operational life of council and members. How, if the alarm was going off, what would be the response time from somebody to being alerted? If you're saying it's up 24/7, where are they coming from? How long would it take for them to respond?
So we have members of our team throughout the UK and Ireland. We have members in Scotland, based and all over the place. As far as exact response times, I'll be honest, I don't know them off the top of my head right now, but I'd imagine they'd be there within an hour or two, absolute maximum. Yeah, that's about all I can say at the minute. Yeah, we can follow that one up if needs be.
Thanks very much for that. There's no more questions for Mr. Deeney. In that case, thank you very much, Mr. Deeney. You may take your seat again, and we'll open the floor to members' comments. We'll start with Councillor Melville.
Thanks, convener. Sorry, I was quite quick off the draw there. Yeah, thank you for the presentation, both to Mr. Hunter and to the speakers who've given us their time. Members will know in previous cases like this, I've been very supportive of these kinds of applications. I believe technology like this is absolutely critical to accelerating the transition to net zero, and I think we all need to get used to seeing it. There's some commentary in some of the objections that this might be contrary to our local development plan. However, NPF4 is now in place, and that absolutely supersedes it, and it's crystal clear about the need to prioritise applications which do advance the journey to net zero. This project, in my view, will contribute to our efforts to do that, and that's why I'll be supporting it.
And it's Councillor Melville. Councillor Duff.
Are you hearing me?
No, we were.
Councillor Doran, Colin, Councillor Doran, are you hearing?
You'll need to start your answer again.
Your microphone, your
microphone.
That mic doesn't work.
Okay. Okay. You hearing me now?
Yes.
Sort of.
You don't need to turn your speakers on. As long as the mic's on, they can.
Okay. So I guess I'm saying I agree with Councillor Melville. I'm supportive of renewable energy, and there's a lot of these battery storage plants around close to substations, which is where they need to be. The other point I would make is NPF4 policy 29 is very supportive of rural businesses, and this is clearly a farm that wants to diversify, and it's a relatively small family farm, and I can see the logic for them having another income stream from this battery storage plant. So yes, I know the area very well, and I'm very supportive. Thank you.
That's Councillor Duff. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, convener. I'm in support for all the reasons that have already been given so eloquently by my colleagues. But I would just like to mention the conditions for me. I think they're very good. I've read them thoroughly. I think they're going to mitigate, as far as we know. We can't mitigate for everything, but I think they're very, very good. And once again, I'd like to commend our colleague, Mr. Hunter, for helping me understand this yet again. So I have no hesitation. Thank you.
That's Councillor Clark. Councillor Beattie, sorry.
Thank you, convener. Yeah, again, with my colleagues on this, I fully support this. I'm glad to see the amount of additional planting. Really important, especially given that this is an area that's really important for migratory birds in the winter. So, extra hedges, with suitable planting would be really good. I'm very pleased to see that we now include the fire safety plan in there. It looks like it's almost like our standard now, and I'm really happy to see that, because we cannot have anything going into our water courses by accident. So really pleased to see that. So thank you, Mr. Hunter, for that.
Thanks, Councillor Beattie. Councillor Furlingham.
Thank you, convener. Yes, just to support my other four colleagues at the moment. Absolutely eloquent what they said. I fully support this application, and just thank Mr. Hunter for his very detailed presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Furlingham. Are there any other comments online? No, on the chamber. Okay. Right, just to sum up, I think we have a number of these applications come before this committee, and I think it's worthwhile still reminding our audience, because we have a public audience, again, of the reasons why we are considering this. So in this case, if everybody bears with me to sum up, the site here is located out with the development boundary, and is not allocated or otherwise identified for development in the Angus Local Development Plan. Although the ALDP was adopted in September 2016, National Planning Framework 4 was adopted in February 2023, and planning legislation indicates that where there is any incompatibility between the provisions of the National Planning Framework and a provision of a local development plan, whichever of them is later in date is to prevail. So NPF 4 prevails in this case. Policy 1 indicates that when considering all development proposals, significant weight will be given to the global climate and nature crisis. Policy 2 encourages development which minimises emissions and adapts to the current and future impacts of climate change. And NPF 4 Policy 11 seeks to encourage, promote and facilitate all forms of renewable energy development, including energy storage. If it identifies a number of impacts, then it suggests project design and mitigation should demonstrate how they're addressed. While the land within this site is in productive agricultural use, development plan policy is supportive of the use of agricultural land for this type of development. The proposal would result in some adverse landscape and visual impact. However, mitigation is proposed through landscape bunds to the east and west, new tree planting and roadside hedge improvements. For these reasons, impacts are not considered unacceptable. Relevant consultation bodies have raised no objection to the application in relation to impacts on amenity, built, cultural and natural heritage interests or other environmental interests or infrastructure. The matters raised in objection and in support of the application have been considered and, where appropriate, addressed by proposed planning conditions in order to minimise adverse impacts. So for these reasons, I'm going to move to approve the application subject to the conditions stated in the report. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Duff, thank you very much. And are there any amendments? I presume not in this case. Good, thank you. So planning application number 24/0038/FULM is hereby approved subject to the conditions stated.
Good.
We got through that part of the agenda. I wouldn't say it's satisfactorily, but I'm going to actually call for a recess of 15 minutes to allow our IT department to try and get the system up and running properly. If it can't be done, we'll go back to this method if everybody's happy with that. So 15-minute recess, everyone. Thank you. Right, everybody, welcome back. The problems with our ongoing technology, we're going to have to maintain the method that we use since the start of the meeting. So just bear with us if we can. Moving to agenda item 8, which relates to report 222/24. And this report deals with planning application 24/00289 by Union Park Community Sports Club for the erection of a new community sports building and ancillary works, including the formation of a parking area at Union Park, Montrose. So we'll ask Ms Porter to start the slides and comment on them. Thanks, Steph.
Thank you, convener, and good morning, everyone. Just making sure everyone can hear me okay. Everyone at home?
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. So as convener suggested, this is item 8 on the agenda today, and it's a planning application that seeks permission for a new community sports building with the formation of a parking area and other ancillary works. Great. So the application site is in the east of the town. It's indicated by the red kite in this section here in the centre of the screen. The site includes the entire white square surrounding the kite. That relates to an existing sports ground. To the east of Mid-Links, which is here, and the Links Park Football Stadium, which is this kind of smaller white rectangle here. To the west of the Broomfield Links Golf Course, and obviously the coastline beyond that further to the east. The site is safeguarded for open space in the local development plan, and the application's before committee as a council-owned site, and we've received 2 third-party objections. So the left-hand image on this slide, this indicates the proposed site plan. It's where the proposed community sports building would be located. It's on the east of the site. It's indicated by the grey rectangle. And as you can see, the remainder of the ground to the west would be retained to provide a cricket pitch, a full-size rugby pitch, and a smaller rugby development pitch. The right-hand drawing provides a bit more detail of the proposed works, and again, the building shown here, fronting onto Winfield Road to the east. And you can notice just to the south of that, there's provision for 20 informal on-site parking spaces. An existing access serving the site in the southeast corner here would be utilised and would be retained and utilised to serve the proposal. This slide shows the elevations of the proposed single-storey building, and as you will see, it includes a covered canopy on the west side. The building is proposed to be finished in grey insulated cladding on the roof and walls, and would include small areas of natural timber feature panels. However, precise details of the finished materials are proposed to be regulated by condition. This drawing is the proposed floor plan of the building, where Winfield Road is depicted by the road running along the bottom of the screen. And as you can see, the building would have a footprint of around 570 square metres, would include changing in toilet facilities, multi-purpose spaces, storage spaces, a kitchen and a medical room. The design of the building does not give rise to any significant issues in terms of the context of the area or the relevant development plan policies or associated guidance. This slide here shows an aerial imagery of the site, where the site relates to the brown square in the centre of the image. As you can see, the site is surrounded by residential properties, where the nearest residential properties are located on the east side of Winfield Road in this area here. These are the closest residential properties to the proposed building. These are about 40 metres away. However, it is also clear from this image that the site is within a mixed-use area where there's other sports grounds to the west, commercial properties and other recreational uses to the east. As previously mentioned, the site is an existing sports ground and it is safeguarded for such a use. Local plan policies seek to protect and enhance existing outdoor sports facilities, and development of these sites is only permitted in limited circumstances. Those circumstances include where the proposed development is ancillary to the principal use of the site as a recreational resource. While the proposal would result in a reduction of available open space, it would not adversely affect the existing sports pitch provision, and it would improve the facilities available for those using the pitches. It's ancillary to the existing sports use of the site, and Sports Scotland have raised no objection to the proposal. It is indicated that the building would also be available for community use, and in very broad terms, the principle of this development is acceptable in this location. 2 letters of representation have been received from residents located in proximity to the grounds. One raises questions regarding possible wider use of the site, including hours of operation and alcohol licensing. Some information on the anticipated level of community use and hours of operation have been provided by the applicant, but these are not matters that the planning system can control in this case. It is indicated that the building would not be licensed, but that's largely a matter for the licensed authority to consider if it receives an application of that nature. However, in considering potential amenity impacts associated with the proposal, the site is an existing sports ground, and that use has potential to generate noise and activity in the area, and the new building might generate additional usage and consequently greater activity, but this would not be unacceptable given the context of the site and the nature of the area. The Council's Environmental Health Service has considered the proposal and has offered no objections, subject to the requirement to submit a noise management plan, and the amplified music or vocals associated with the use are limited to a level where they would be inaudible within nearby noise-sensitive properties. A condition is also proposed to limit noise from any fixed plant. The proposal is not considered to result in any unacceptable impacts on amenity subject to these conditions. This slide here shows an image of the current condition of the site. It's viewed from Winfield Road facing west, with residential properties in the background, roughly 170 metres from where the picture was taken. Concerns and the objections have also raised concerns in relation to floodlights, but as you can see in the right-hand side of this image here, there are existing floodlights at the site and no new floodlights are proposed. However, a condition is proposed to regulate any lighting that might be proposed on the new building. Lastly, concerns regarding impacts upon access, parking and road traffic have been raised. The site is in a location that is reasonably accessible from the wider town by pedestrians, and there's also no designated parking within the site at present, but existing on-street parking is available on Winfield Road for users of the existing sports pitches. As you can see here, this is Winfield Road, where there's ample parking available on site. The proposal is unlikely to result in a significant increase in traffic, but the proposal would provide for 20 new informal hardcore on-site parking spaces, and a condition is suggested to ensure that these are provided. The Council's Road Service have considered the proposal and offer no objection, subject to the provision of 10 cycle parking spaces within the site. And on that basis, it's considered the proposal would not significantly affect parking provision in the area or cause any significant issues in terms of road traffic or pedestrian safety. This and the following slides relate to a very similar proposal that was previously approved by committee on the site in 2019. However, this permission has since expired. As you can see, there's a similar rectangular building with 20 parking spaces located in the east of the site, and the playing fields retained to the west. The building approved at that time was approved subject to similar noise conditions as those proposed in the report before members today. This slide here shows the elevations and layout of that building that was previously approved, and again the appearance of the building is very similar to that currently proposed. Although NPF 4 has been introduced since that decision was issued, relevant policy considerations have not changed to any significant extent, and therefore this 2019 permission is a material consideration which merits some weight in considering the current proposal. Returning to the current proposal, the application relates to the erection of a community sports building within a site which currently used for sporting activities and which previously benefited from planning permission for a very similar development. The new building might generate additional usage and greater activity in the vicinity, but this would not be unacceptable given the nature of the area. The building is located some distance from neighbouring properties and is of acceptable design, and concerns raised by third parties have been taken into account, and conditions are proposed to address those concerns where appropriate. Therefore, the proposal is recommended for approval, subject to the conditions listed in the committee report.
Great, thank you, Ms Porter. Start off with any questions from members for Ms Porter. Councillor Dunrow.
Thanks for that, Stephanie. You probably won't be able to answer this, but maybe somebody, one of the local members can. How far is it from the nearest bus stop, and is it on a bus route? Because obviously if children are going to be travelling at, you know, dark nights, etc. I know we're saying we've got cycles in provision there and we've got car parking, but how far is it from the nearest bus station? Because children can now use their bus card and get free bus travel. So just wondered how far it was for them to travel. Thank you. You maybe don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Durno. In all honesty, I don't know the nearest location of the location of the nearest bus stop to the site. However, it is within close proximity to the town centre and the associated transport links that will be provided there.
Okay, I'm gonna ask Councillor Duff to come in as local member.
Well, I don't know the exact answer, but I would have thought about half a mile away. I mean, that part of Montrose has got a rugby club, it has got the golf club. Okay, most people who play golf generally arrive in a vehicle and not a push bike. But yes, there's quite a lot of sports facilities. The Montrose Sports Centre is not a million miles away from there. And you've got the tennis club and you've got a bowling club all in that vicinity. So I would have said half a mile will get you to the town centre, and it's a 5-10 minute walk from there. That's my local knowledge.
Thanks, Councillor Duff. Just Councillor, just so you know, it's if we're looking behind Rose Leap is one area we're about to discuss shortly as well. Gives you a better idea where it is. Okay, Councillor Melville.
Yeah, thanks, convener. Thank you for the presentation. What I couldn't see in the papers was information about the energy efficiency and the energy of the building. I don't know if you have any information on that you can give us as well.
There doesn't appear to be any kind of solar panels or any air source heat pumps proposed by the building, but as you'll see, the building does have roof lights, so it could maximise solar gain in that regard.
Also as well, Councillor, we do have a speaker on behalf of the applicant. You may want to address that question to the lady directly when we get to that stage. Sorry, Mr. Hunter.
Perhaps just to be clear, the proposal will also require a building warrant, at which point it will be required to comply with the relevant energy performance standards.
Thanks for clarification. Are there any other questions from Ms. Porter? No. Okay, that's fine. And we have with us online Kerry Smith, who is on behalf of the applicant, and is, I think, Ms. Smith, you're willing to take questions. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Can you hear me? Yes, that's right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, so with regard to the energy efficiency measures, there is a ground source heat pump proposed for the building, but no solar panels.
Thanks very much. Is there any, just on that, thanks for that, Ms. Smith, interjection. And is there any questions for Ms. Smith, who's here on behalf of the applicant? So we've got Councillor Clark for you, Ms. Smith.
Hello, Ms. Smith. I'm just going to ask you something that I kind of try and ask most people who are erecting new buildings. It's certainly not a trick question. It's simply a yes or no, and it's not a problem. Just because we have a distinct shortage of adult changing places for toilet facilities, I'm just going to ask, was there any consideration given? It may well be that you just wouldn't have the room. As I say, it's not a trick question, but it is one thing that I would like to put to you. Thank you.
So sorry, the question is, are there any adult changing facilities?
It's not just quite just changing it, it's bathroom facilities where going in and you can see mum and children or adult and children going in for their facility to have them changed. This is much more delicate. This is severely disabled adults, and it's a change in places toilet. Now, that is just something that a lot of people can't manage, but I just try and ask people when there's an opportunity that it might be, and just by gauging your reaction, it's probably not.
Yeah,
but that's okay. I just wanted to ask the question.
Okay, they're probably, I mean, the building itself is quite spacious, so I'm sure that is something that we could incorporate into the design.
That's an excellent answer. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Clark. Councillor Doran.
Thank you. My question was going to be the same as Councillor Clark's relating to that. But I saw on the design that there is a changing place within that has got a toilet in it. So I wondered if that was that on the.
We like there is always I mean the building does have disabled access, and that's always in the design as part of getting through building regulations. So we have that standard standard changing facilities from that. So sorry, I just thought from the previous question it was like a specialised facility you were talking about, which
so I can see on the design, Sean, you've got an accessible WC and then a changing place as well. Mm-hmm. So I would just wanted to clarify if that second one, which is called a changing place, is going to be the facility that Councillor Clark had mentioned, because I was going to seek clarification on that as well. I was going to ask the same question.
If you just give me a minute, let me have a look.
Yeah, I think it's the one that it's got the cursor on just now on the screen.
Yeah, that is an accessible changing room. Does that answer your question?
Not really in terms of if it's an accessible changing room, because a changing places toilet is a separate thing.
A changing places toilet is not something we haven't designed to that code. So that's my answer. But we certainly can look at that, because I suspect we're probably not far off being able to reach that higher level of whatever that requirement is. So we can look into that.
Great.
Right, thank you, Councillor Doran, for your question, and Ms Smith for your response to that. Is there any other questions for Ms Smith? Doesn't appear to be. Ms Smith, thanks for taking the questions. Ms Smith, that's great.
No problem.
We'll move from questions then to comments from members, and we'll start with Councillor Duff.
Right, you hearing me now? No.
Yeah, no, they are. Yeah.
You are. Read that one. Okay, right. Yeah, just to say I'm very supportive. I was pretty sure we had seen this application before, and Ms Porter is saying it was 2019, so that kind of fits in with my own memory. Yes, I have absolutely no issue with this one. It's a sports facility. The current clubhouse is, I think, wooden and rather elderly, so replacing it with something that's modern with showers and toilets and all that sort of stuff is absolutely excellent. I know the club is very well run. It has a large number, certainly, of young people participating. So yes, I would be very supportive of this. This is in the part of the town, as I said earlier, there is a lot of sports facilities. So yeah, very supportive of this one.
Great, thanks, Councillor Duff. We've got 2 or 3 speakers, so we'll go to Councillor Nicholl.
Thank you, Convener. I've been at many events on the site, and the new building would greatly enhance the facilities. I support this application.
Thanks, Councillor Nicholl. Another local member, Councillor Gall.
Thank you, Convener. Just to echo Councillor Duff and Councillor Nicholl, this is a really good app. Anything that kind of supports sport in local towns is obviously a really good thing, and it hopefully provides decades to come of more success at that site for the club and all those that use it. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Gall. Councillor Melville.
Yeah, thanks, Convener, and thank you to Ms Smith for answering our questions. Very much in support of this, and it's good to see the incorporation of clean heating as well, something that we need to incorporate in all future designs.
Thanks. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Convener, and delighted to support this. How many times the young boys and girls have had to go to places where they're changing in the back of the car and you're getting mud all over the place and it's freezing. This is Scotland. we purport to have a nation of health and wealth in health, then we need to support things like this. Absolutely. Well done.
Councillor Clark. Councillor Dorn was next.
I was just going to say similar and wish them good luck. And
Thanks, Councillor Dorn. I think looks last of all, Councillor Durno.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. Yeah, totally support this. I would just like to say to Kerry Smith, if you could maybe make sure you've got a drop-off point near the door, because obviously you've got 20 parking spaces and we're hearing that there's not a bus stop nearby. So if taxis, etc., are coming in past, I know our sports centre here, the traffic is really bad. And if there was a designated drop-off point near the door for people that have babies, etc., with older children, it would make life a lot easier. And it would make parents want to go, especially if it's bucketing rain. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Durno. I think any other comments around the room? I think we've covered it all. Okay, thanks very much, everyone. Just to sum up briefly here, the planning application really is only in front of us today as a result of the land pertaining to being in the ownership of Angus Council, and for complete transparency. Containers such as this are fundamental, I believe, to sports grounds nowadays, and there are many situated of different shapes and sizes in similar locations all around Angus. Despite the couple of objections submitted, there do not appear to be any material considerations that justify refusal of planning permission, and accordingly I'm going to move approval subject to the aforementioned proposed conditions in paragraph 10 of the report. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Melville, thanks very much. Any amendments? No, thanks very much. In that case, planning application number 24/00289 is hereby approved subject to the conditions stated. Thanks very much, everybody, on that one. Agenda item 9 today relates to report 223/24, and the report deals with planning application 24/00250 by Rose Leap for the formation of a beer garden, including the erection of 9 shelter structures and perimeter planters at the Rose Leap Restaurant, 2 Trail Drive, Montrose. And again, I think Ms. Porter to present the slides.
Thank you, Convener. Just double checking everyone can hear me again. So as Convener suggested, this is item 9 and it relates to a planning application at Rose Leap. So this image might look a little familiar because, as Convener alluded to earlier, this application site is located on the opposite side of Winfield Road to Union Park, which was discussed during the previous agenda item. Winfield Road is the tree-lined avenue that curves through the centre of this image here, and the application site relates to this grey former parking space in the centre of the screen indicated by my cursor. The application relates to a change of use of the area of ground to the rear of Rose Leap, and the application seeks permission for the formation of an outdoor eating and drinking area associated with the existing restaurant use, as well as the erection of 9 structures, shelter structures and perimeter planters to serve that space. And as previously suggested as part of the previous discussions, there is a mix of residential and commercial properties in the vicinity with golf club buildings and a veterinary service to the north. This slide shows the submitted location plan. The application site is indicated by the red line boundary, and the adjoining land also in the ownership of the applicant is outlined in blue. The area of land to the building, the former car park in the previous image, is this section here, and that benefits from an extant planning permission for use as an external area associated with the existing business. That permission also allowed for the erection of shelter structures, albeit in a different position to those currently proposed. This slide shows the proposed site plan. It indicates the layout of the shelters and the planters proposed, with the shelters grouped centrally in this area here and the planters around the exposed sides here and here. Rose Leap is on the right-hand side of the image here, and the former Mercantile Golf Club is to the northeast and the north here. You'll note that the application includes the rear section of the former Mercantile Golf Club building, this area here. It's not intended to change the use of this building, and this building is purely included within the application site in order to allow the toilets within the former locker rooms in this building to be used to serve the outdoor space. A condition is proposed to prevent that area of the building being used as restaurant accommodation or for any other related use other than for ancillary storage purposes. So the space is only permitted to be used to provide toilet and washroom facilities associated with the proposal. This slide shows the existing and proposed elevations of the building, where the existing elevations are on the top and the proposed are the second row down. As you can see, this is how it would look as viewed from Winfield Road to the west. Each shelter structure would measure around 3 by 4 metres and would have a height of around 2.4 metres, and they're indicated by these grey kind of U-shaped structures on the bottom of this image. So the shelter structures have been erected in the position proposed by the current application, and in this respect they are retrospective. However, the applicant has advised that they're not currently in use. So this slide shows what the proposed shelters and planters look like in situ. This is viewed from Winfield Road looking northeast towards the application site, where the shelters are these lightweight grey structures. I apologise, I didn't realise this slide was a bit blurry. And obviously the wooden planters are here and here with the planting above. And you can see the rear elevation of the restaurant building is the painted elements here. So there's no specific policies that deal with proposals for outdoor eating and drinking spaces associated with existing buildings, but policies are generally supportive of business and support economic growth. However, the policy context is set out in the report before you, and in terms of visual amenity, as you can see from the image in front of you, the proposed structures would not have a significant impact on the character of the building or the wider public realm, and the land on which they're positioned is reasonably discrete, and the proposed structures and the activity associated with them would not be readily visible from the surrounding public areas. Therefore, the remaining key considerations in this case are impacts upon residential amenity and relevant planning history. So in terms of planning history, 2 previous planning approvals are relevant to this application. The first relates to the former Mercantile Club House, where planning permission was approved in 2021 for the use of that building as a restaurant, bar and coffee shop. However, that application did include the area of land to the rear of the building, which is covered by the current proposal, and it allowed for that outdoor area to be used as an association with the restaurant use within the Mercantile Club building. However, that permission was never implemented and it's now lapsed. Therefore, more notably is the second permission, which is shown on the screen now, which was granted in May 2022, and this specifically allows for the area of land to the rear of Ruse Leap to be used in association with the existing restaurant use. As you can see, the structures, this includes planting structures, as you can see, this includes gazebo type structures. However, these are an alternative formation to those proposed as part of the current application. So that permission was approved subject to similar conditions as those proposed for the current application, and that remains extant. So this permission remains extant, and the area of land can lawfully be used as an outdoor eating and drinking area and associated with the restaurant, subject to compliance with the relevant conditions attached to that 2022 permission, irrespective of the outcome of this application. The extant planning permission, which allows the outdoor area to be used for eating and drinking, is a significant material consideration in the assessment of this application. In terms of residential amenity, the closest dwelling to the outdoor area is the dwelling located to the south, which is roughly in this area here. That's actually within the ownership of the applicant, and the closest dwellings to the west are a little over 30 metres away, but they are separated by Winfield Road coming down here, residential properties in this area here. And the closest dwelling to the north is separated from the outdoor area by the part of the Mercantile building here, residential property here. So 5 letters of representation have been received, but these are mainly from properties on Winfield Road here and Winfield Way in here on the left-hand side of the image. So the main concerns raised relate to loss of privacy and amenity, noise and nuisance. A number of comments were made in relation to amenity impacts arising from previous music events and amplified noise taking place on the site. And some of these objections also note that conditions attached to the previous permission, if these were reattached to the current proposal, they would have no objection to the development. This slide shows a 2015 street view image. So this is prior to the erection of the structures on the application site, but it gives members an indication of the site context. It's a view looking south down Winfield Road with the application site tucked in here, and the nearest residential property is to the west, located on the right-hand side of the image here. So the applicant has indicated that they would not intend to hold any live music or DJ events in the outdoor area, but they have sought to play background music with speakers directed away from residential properties and controlled in such a way that they would be inaudible from neighbouring properties. However, no noise assessment has been provided to demonstrate this arrangement would be satisfactory. Therefore, the Environmental Health Service has reviewed the proposal and has indicated that there would be no unacceptable impact on amenity to those living in the surrounding area, subject to adherence with suggested conditions, which, amongst other things, seek to prevent any musical entertainment, amplified or unamplified, and any live or televised events being played in the outdoor space at any time, as well as adherence to a revised noise management plan. The noise management plan would include details to how to limit noise from patrons using the outdoor area and how complaints would be dealt with. The Environmental Health Service has also suggested that conditions should be attached to limit the hours of operation of the outdoor area and to prevent music being played within the licensed premises with the intention of it being heard within the external area. However, hours of operation are generally controlled through the licensing regime, and there's no special amenity circumstances relating to this site that would justify the planning authority imposing conditions to control this matter in this case. In terms of music being played internally with the intention of it being heard externally, this would be difficult for the planning authority to competently regulate via condition or monitoring. And while it's not directly relevant to the planning considerations in front of us today, members may wish to note that the licence for the premises prevents use of the outdoor area after 9 p.m. and for the provision of music being played for the purpose of it being heard in the outdoor area. So it's not unusual for outdoor eating and drinking areas to be located in proximity to residential properties, and it's considered in this case that they can coexist without significant issue subject to appropriate controls. So to conclude, the site benefits from an extent planning permission that allows for the site to be used for outdoor eating and drinking associated with the existing restaurant and for the erection of shelters, albeit in a different configuration to that proposed. Subject to compliance with the conditions attached to the earlier permission, that land can be used for that purpose, irrespective of any decision that is made on the current application. While concerns raised by residents in the surrounding area regarding impact on amenity are recognised, it considered that these can be addressed by the planning conditions proposed. The shelter structures within the outdoor area not give rise to any significant issues in terms of their appearance, and the development is of a scale and nature appropriate to the area. It is in general compliance with the development plan policies, subject to conditions that seek to safeguard the amenity for those living nearby. And as such, the proposal is recommended for approval as set out in the report before you.
Great, thank you, Ms Porter. On the questions for Ms Porter, we'll start with Councillor Durno.
Sorry, Stephanie, to give you this question as well. I've been to the building quite a lot, and at the moment, there's quite a narrow passageway between the building and the next building. And with this new building at the back, and I've seen what you said about Winefield Road, is it going to be easy enough access if there was a fire at that building? Would a fire appliance get into the back of that building okay when this is built? What's the fire?
So in terms of, I think this slide
this
here might show it a bit better. There is quite easy access from the rear here. I don't obviously know where there's any kind of water sources for fire appliances, but this is readily accessible from the rear here.
So there wouldn't be a problem there. That's great. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dunn. Are there any questions from the supporter from the room? Or online? Or Councillor Duff?
I think I know the answer to this question, but given the number of complaints that there were or objections, condition 3 makes it absolutely clear that there's no music allowed out. That's black and white. Yep, that's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Dunn. Sorry, Councillor Duff, apologies. Any other questions from the supporter? No? Okay, thanks very much. We have online Cameron Piper of John D. Crawford Architects, who is here on behalf of the applicant. I take it to take any questions, Mr. Piper, or are you wishing to address members?
Yeah, so thanks for having me first of all. Just quickly, my colleague that's actually dealing with this application is he's not here today. So I'm just filling in to kind of take minutes and take any questions that you guys may have for him, and I can pass these on.
Okay, thanks. I'll just find out if any members do have any questions for the applicants. None in the room. Doesn't seem to be any online either. Okay, Mr. Piper, you got off lightly there. No questions from members in that case. So moving on, do any elected members have any comments on this application? Councillor Melville.
Yes, thanks, convener. Absolutely understand some of the objecting to this. However, as we've heard, there are conditions attached, including a noise management plan, and the third condition, which Councillor Duff has already spoken about, which absolutely prohibits musical entertainment, live or televised events. And as we've also heard from Ms Porter, the licence that they have puts a hard stop on outdoor drinking at 9 p.m. And on the licence, there's also a restriction on music. So that to me is a sort of double lock on the issue of music and amplified sound. I think that does effectively address the objections, and on that basis, I'm more than happy to support it.
Mr. Melville, again, any other comments? Councillor Duff.
Again, I would be very supportive of this. I mean, it is a very successful business. It is clearly needs to cater for more customers, and I think that's something we should be supporting. And with the condition about the live or the music condition being forbidden for outdoors, I think makes a lot of sense, and I think that deals with a lot of the objections from nearby residents. So yeah, very supportive of this one.
Thanks, Councillor Duff. Again, local member Councillor Gall.
Thank you, convener. Just echoing Councillor Melville and Councillor Duff regarding the conditions. Obviously, hospitality has had a pretty rough ride over the last few years. So to see a local business that's had decades of success to invest is obviously very positive, and more than happy to support this application and wish them all the best. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Gall. Councillor Clark.
Sorry, can you hear me? Okay, well, wanted to support it. We saw how much we had to sit outside during the awful times that we've just come out of, thank goodness, with the pandemic. Scotland is very much open to get back into hospitality after a rough ride, as has been mentioned. We're very much a tourism country. So we really need to be lining up here and hoping that we can do, and if we do it well, that and good training staff, etc., we've got to win. So I'm fully supportive.
Thanks, Councillor Clark. Any other comments? Nope. Okay, thanks everybody. Again, so it's convenient just to sum up here. I think some relevant points. There is still extant planning permission for the use of the outdoor area referred to in this application. The area in question can lawfully be used for the use proposed, subject to compliance with any conditions considered material, and the conditions attached to the existing planning permission are generally consistent with those proposed here. The extant planning permission allows the outdoor area to be used for eating and drinking in association with the restaurant use. As stated in the report, the planning history demonstrates a consistent approach towards preventing music and controlling noise in the outdoor area in the interests of safeguarding amenity. There are concerns raised by third party, and they've been considered in assessing the application, and the proposed conditions seek to address these concerns. If planning conditions are breached, the council has power to take enforcement action and has separate powers to deal with any breach of licence conditions should that occur. Residents' concerns regarding impact on amenity are recognised, but it is considered that these can be addressed by the suggested planning conditions shown in this report. Subject to the identified conditions, the proposal is considered compatible with the development plan as it provides improved facilities for an existing restaurant in a manner that does not give rise to unacceptable impacts on amenity, natural and built environment, road safety or infrastructure. And as such, in my opinion, there do not appear to be any material considerations that justify refusal. So I'm going to move approval, subject to the aforementioned proposed conditions in para 10 of the report. There's a plethora of people who want to second me. I believe I'll take Councillor Clark in this case. Thanks very much. Any amendments? Take it not. Nope. Thank you. Planning application 24/00250 full is hereby approved, subject to the conditions stated. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to agenda item 10, which relates to report 224/24. This report deals with planning application 24/00374 full, submitted by Angus Council for the change of use of land to allow the siting of a coffee trailer at the Signal Tower in Lady Lone Arbroath. And I think Mr. Hunter is going to present the slides.
I will indeed. Thank you, convener. As you've indicated, this is a planning application for the change of use of an area of land to allow the siting of a coffee trailer at the Signal Tower Museum, Arbroath. This application is before you because the council has an interest in the application and it is subject of a single objection. Members will be familiar with the Signal Tower, its environs, and the image before you shows in red the extent of the area of land where change of use is sought. So we have the courtyard associated with the Signal Tower building, the tower itself located just in the centre of the screen here, entrance from Burnside Drive just at the left-hand side of the image. So purely change of use of this area of land to allow the siting of the coffee trailer. The coffee trailer itself does not require planning permission. No physical alterations to the listed buildings, so no listed building consent is required. Key consideration in relation to this application is whether it gives rise to any adverse impact on the setting of the listed buildings, or indeed whether it gives rise to any wider amenity impacts on the area. And you perhaps see from this slide, it's a very small area. It's providing a coffee facility which will serve visitors to the museum premises. Not unusual for people visiting a museum to get themselves a cup of coffee, and this does not give rise to any significant adverse impact on the wider setting of the listed buildings or the wider area. You can see it's enclosed within the courtyard. The courtyard could in fact be used for the parking of cars. In this case, it's just to allow the siting of the trailer. You can see from the entrance from Burnside Drive, trailer itself is not visible, so no wider visual impact issues associated with the development. And in terms of the wider area, coffee trailer is going to be round about 70 metres from the closest residential properties, which sit next to the Bellrock Fish and Chip restaurant. So the coffee trailer itself unlikely to give rise to any significant adverse impacts on the amenity of the area, doesn't adversely affect the listed building or its setting, doesn't give rise to any significant issues in terms of development plan policy, and is recommended for approval. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Stage. None in the room. Oh, Councillor Dunno, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. Mr Hunter, will the coffee unit only be open when the gate is open at the Signal Tower Museum, or will it be planning to be open when the Signal Tower Museum is closed? Or do you not know?
So we have not been provided with any information specifically regarding that, but my understanding is it's likely only to be open when the museum is open.
Yeah, just have concerns about local businesses. Obviously, I have the Bell Rock across the road and the Boatyard and Wendy's Kitchen all in the vicinity, and I wouldn't like it to take trade from them. And obviously, if it's just going to be coffee, then that would be fine. And I know that's not a planning consideration, but just looking out for local businesses. Yeah, if it's going to be coffee and it's just going to be in the Signal Tower Museum, I'm quite happy with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. There are no any other questions, Mr Hunter? No. In that case, we'll go straight to comments in that case, and we'll start with Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Convener. I suppose really had my questions answered, that's why I didn't ask them, obviously. But in relation to where this is and the building itself, I'm thinking in terms of there is a bit of a synergy there, because obviously you're going for coffee, there'll be toilets in that building. And then the building itself doesn't have a coffee bar, so it's now got a wee coffee bar outside. I'll not say what's not to like, because that's pretty crass really, but I really think this is a very, very good idea. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Clark. Any other comments? Councillor Melville.
Thank you, Convener. Yeah, no, I absolutely support this. Mr Hunter has set out really for us all that there will be no adverse impact from this on the site itself. I appreciate what Councillor Durno has set out there about local business considerations, but I do think that this will strike the right balance. It'll enhance a fantastic local asset and hopefully help to drive up visitor numbers to the museum, which I know is not a planning consideration, but nonetheless important for our cultural heritage. So yeah, I support it.
Yeah, good point. Of either worthy of a note, Councillor Melville. Again, and there further comments either in the room, online? No. Okay. In that case, as was another application previous this morning, this planning application is only really in front of us today, as Mr Hunter said, as a result of Angus Council having an interest in the land. And for complete transparency, a change of use to provide the siting of a coffee station seems almost standard now in providing cafe facilities in museums and art galleries, etc. It would be in the confines of the quadrangle, the Signal Tower itself, and I think the facility will be welcome here. And as everyone knows, competition is not a planning issue. So despite any of the objections that's submitted, again, I don't think there are any material considerations justifying refusal, and accordingly I'm going to move approval, subject to the aforementioned proposed conditions in para 10, seconded by Councillor Melville. Any amendments? No. Thank you very much. The planning application number 24/00374 is hereby approved, subject to conditions stated. Thank you. Now, Councillor Gall, will let you go because you have an interest, as you say, in agenda item 11, and we'll be back in touch to bring you back in for the remaining items of the agenda. If we just get confirmation that Councillor Gall has left. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 11 relates to report 225/24 and deals with planning application 24/00104 by Councillor Gall for 2 extensions on an existing house at Glen Skino in Montrose. Mr Hunter, do you have to briefly address this?
Happy to do so, Convener. As you've indicated, planning application for extension of an existing dwelling at Glen Skino Montrose. We have the general location of Glen Skino, the west of the village of Hillside, and we have House of Dun located a short distance to the southwest. Here we see the footprint of the existing building, part of a former farmsteading, and this committee granted planning permission to allow this element of the building to be converted into a dwelling at its meeting in November 2022. You see extension to the east elevation in the area shown here, and extension to the south elevation just in the area identified by the cursor. See elevations of the proposed extensions, the south elevation, so the extension onto the main elevation, and the extension the east elevation, generally design terms, perfectly in keeping with the character of the existing building. A couple of photographs. Here we see the south elevation is the elevation facing us, and the extension will sit in this general area. And the east elevation, apologise for the sunshine in this picture. The second extension will sit in the area that we see just identified here. So some distance from public roads, some distance from public areas, no great visual impact seen within the context of the existing grouping of farm buildings. You can perhaps just see on an aerial image some distance from the closest neighbouring properties. We have the existing farmhouse building located short distance to the east, and another holiday property which I believe might be in holiday use located a short distance to the southwest. But certainly in terms of distance from residential properties, no significant issues in terms of amenity. Proposal complies with development plan policy. You'll see there's an updated back survey being provided. There's some conditions attached that deal with potential impacts in relation to bats, but complies with development plan policy, complies with our design guidance, and is recommended for approval. Thank you, Convener.
Thanks, Mr. Hunter. Have any members got any questions, Mr. Hunter, on this? None in the room, none online. Okay, thank you very much. Again, we have Mr. Piper from John D. Crawford online, who must be representing Councillor Gall. That's correct to take it, Mr. Piper?
It is, yeah.
Right, okay. Again, any questions for Mr. Piper on this one? None in the room or online. Again, thanks, Mr. Piper, for attending. So we'll move straight to any comments. Any comments at all, Councillor Melville?
Yeah, I see no reason to oppose this at all. I did also just want to say it's worthy of note that we're having to apologise for the presence of sunshine on this committee, which has not been a regular occurrence, but hopefully points to brighter days ahead.
Thanks, Councillor Melville. Any more comments? Nope. Oh, Councillor Duff, go ahead.
The sun always shines in Hillside.
Okay, that's no comments. Again, briefly summing up, planning application, again, only in front of us today as a result of the applicant being an elected member of this council, and for complete transparency accordingly, in line with recommendation, I'm going to move approval subject to any conditions in para 10 of the report. Seconder in Councillor Beattie. No amendments, so planning application 24/00104 is hereby approved subject to the conditions stated in the report. Thank you, everyone, and maybe we can try and get Councillor Gall back. Great, welcome back, Councillor Gall. Thank you. We have two more items on the agenda now this afternoon. Both of them are planning application notices. Agenda item 12, report 226, week 24, advises committee on a proposal application notice 24/00367 submitted by Renewable Energy Systems in respect of a solar farm at Burlet, and I'll let Mr. Hunter just progress with this one.
It's me. No,
Apologies,
okay.
Miss Porter. Apologies with that, mate.
No, it's okay. Alan's voice has got instantly high pitched. As members are likely aware, we've had quite a lot of proposal of application notices before them previously. This is an intimation that a planning application is intended to be submitted at a future date. It's not a planning application itself. So this proposal of application notice relates to the construction and operation of a solar farm of up to 49.9 megawatts output and associated infrastructure. It's on around 154 hectares of land surrounding Vallows of Arberlet. I've been trying to get that right. Apologies if I haven't. And it's located just to the west of Arbroath. As you can see, the application site is this red area on the image in front of you. And this slide just shows a rough aerial imagery of the site. As you can see, consists of a number of fields. And officers have identified key considerations that they consider relevant to the determination of any future application. They've been highlighted in paragraph 4.4 of the report before you. And we just invite members to highlight anything else that they wish the applicant to consider should an application come forward.
Thanks, Steph. This is looking at that about a substantial site. Do members have any other issues or concerns they wish to be considered? In addition to those already shown in paragraph 4.4 on pages 155 and 156 of our papers. Look at these key issues. Is there any other ones people want to bring up? Nobody here? See that? None online? So we're all happy in that case. In that case, are the key issues noted?
Noted.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 13 relates to report 227 of week 24. Again, a publication notice, this time on behalf of Muir Homes Limited and Scotia Homes Limited for a residential development and infrastructure landscaping of fields, 280 metres west of Westfield House, Westfield Loan Forfar. And again, I think Ms. Porter, you're about to address this one.
Yep, again, just a brief presentation to set out the context of the site for members. This application relates to proposal of application notice relates to proposed residential development with associated infrastructure at Westfield Loan and Forfar. The application site is the red line and the image before you. It's just maybe worth pointing out at this stage that the majority of the application site is located within land allocation F4 within the local development plan. However, there is one field which is located out with the development boundary. That's in this area here. And if I just switch to this slide, you can see the field that I've pointed out in the previous slide. That's just this one here. So it is out with the development boundary, but it still is within the wider F4 allocation, which safeguards the kind of area outlined in orange for residential use at a later date forward of 2026. So again, officers have identified key considerations that they consider relevant to the determination of any future application. In this case, they're in paragraph 4.6 of the report. As you'll note, it does make reference to relevant planning history because there have been a number of previous applications at this site, as well as site constraints and kind of noise and traffic impacts. And as I said, they're all highlighted in paragraph 4.6, but if members wish to highlight anything else, we welcome them to do so.
Thanks, Ms. Porter. We'll go to, well, we have got the recommendation is for us, the committee, to note the key issues and any further issues they wish to be considered. So, Councillor Duff, we'll start with yourself.
Yeah, thank you, convener, and I'll probably just get the right. Okay, hear me now, right? Thanks, convener. Yes, I mean, this is again one that I think we have seen this before, or something very similar to it before. And I'll make the points that I've made before, that the thing that really concerns me is the Loughlin's Junction. I think it's inadequate, it's potentially unsafe, and really in the 21st century we shouldn't have a junction like that entering a settlement of the size of Forfar, and that needs to be resolved. And I would very much want to see that linked with further development in this area. So I'm sure that is mentioned in the paper, but I think I would feel quite strongly about that one. And I think the council and the network the Transport Scotland need to get together on this one and make sure that we resolve that issue, because I think good road safety is important, and it's built on sound design and sound engineering, and I think we need to do that.
Very aptly put, Councillor Duff, and I concur 100% with everything you just said. Councillor Melville?
Yes, thanks, convener. I don't have an additional issue, but I do want to comment on one of the issues that's in there. I'm very glad to see the issue of health infrastructure highlighted there. I've been banging on that drum on this committee for a wee while now. All of us know that where new housing is built, it can have an impact on local healthcare settings, and where we can, we might seek to mitigate that potentially with developers' contributions. So I'm very pleased to see that included in there. So thank you.
Councillor Melville, any other issues to be addressed? Councillor Clark?
I don't know if we can do this, and I'm also very grateful what I say. And they can't hear me. I don't know if this would be something that I can say, but it's not contentious at all, because I'm always very careful what I say at this stage. But when there are events, and there are some of them that started, it says in the papers, I'll just make the comment, and I made it to them at the time, to be as extensive as they can, because people go along there to get information, and it's not always they get it. So they have to get it somewhere. They can go along to community council, and it's a good one, they can get it there. But I think if you're going to have these events, please be very careful that you can give people, and I always go to them, I make myself known, I don't go along there spying, but I think if you're going to have an event, make sure that people get some education and some information. It's not always the case, and I'm not picking on anybody. It's just, you're going to have it, make sure it's good.
Thanks, Councillor Clark. Are there any other issues that any members want to raise? Key issues? No. Okay, in that case, we've had the, as I say in paragraph 4.6, we have a number of key issues, and some will have been reiterated this morning. So can I just agree these keynotes issued? Sorry, key issues noted. Thank you very much. Right, thanks very much, everybody. Okay, that brings this meeting of Development Standards to an end. First of all, can I thank you all initially for your patience this morning, and as always, your attendance and contributions. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks. Thanks very much.
Thank you.